Hello, everyone. I'm going to go through here the Kaleidoscope listening number two. Back to Bradbury again, and there are one more Bradbury story to do. As I mentioned a couple of times already before, each one of these literary devices we're looking at are related to the others. So by answering something about the theme, you can look at the narrative technique, the genre, the plot, the characterization, etc., the setting. All of them come together, and I guess that's what my real goal is. First of all, trying to keep it simple for us to have just several literary devices we look at systematically, but to appreciate what makes a good story. Okay, and Bradbury is definitely a master of a good story. In terms of the characters, well, there are several of them. I don't expect you to have all of them. Of course, Hollis is going to be really important. Now we have all of these people over here. Why are they there? They basically each represent something slightly different. So we have some differences with the type of lifestyle that they have, the type of personality that they have. We have a captain, we have a crew, just now floating through space. They contribute to the theme of the story because of the differences that some of them have as they reflect upon their lives. One of them had many girlfriends all over the place. The other one was shy. The captain himself was beginning to kind of rethink his power and his grasp on power and the moments of his life that he regretted. And that's very much part of the theme, is that they're each one of them reflecting on their lives and thinking about how they could have had a more meaningful existence. Now, the plot's pretty straightforward. Just want to know if you can understand what happened in the story, okay? The ending is quite beautiful, and we come back to that later. I mean, it's tragically beautiful. As you know, that Hollis falls through the atmosphere and his body burns like a shooting star. And so the ending of his life is the beginning of this young boy and his mom looking up at the stars and making a wish, dot, dot, dot. Traditional, old school Bradbury. The climax is a little bit more difficult to pinpoint here. So it could be just, in fact, the very beginning. When the rocket explodes, is a climax happening rarely at the very beginning of a story that leaves us a very long, drawn out ending, because that's kind of the activity, the action that happens that puts the rest of our characters floating into space. They could technically have saved themselves. If you re-look at the story, if you like, I can show it to you. If you want to know where it is, I can show you that part of Kaleidoscope when they could have had some things to save their lives, but they didn't. Either way, the climax could also be just at the bitter end of the story, basically as one of these characters passes away. Either way, why don't you just kind of reflect on, well, what the climax could be? And I agree with you in this case, not particularly clear. Again, Bradbury always uses these situations of science fiction is a part of the future, which makes us reflect on our present. How does that help the theme? Well, the theme is let's reflect on our lives. Let's reflect on what we do. Imagine you're floating out in space, um, and space, the infinity of space, and the beauty and vastlessness, the endlessness of the universe, the endlessness, the vastness of existence. And these people just kind of gone. And that context allows us really, okay, well, we're not on the earth and we're just, these people are just talking to each other. So the significance of dialogue, I'll come back to in a minute. Um, but this happening in space gives us the opportunity to really 100% focus just on the characters. They're not traveling, they're not walking around, they're not interacting really. They're completely isolated individuals now, no longer part of that brain that he's talked about or that collective or community. So that isolation through the vastness of space, well, let's think a little about the meaning of life, right? Well, that influences the reader because we really do have to focus really on these characters, and we really don't know much about them physically. We don't know really where they're from or what they do or even what they look like or what they're wearing or where they live or how they live. We just, these bodies floating, all of them equally floating. The rich one, the poor one, the smart one, the captain, everybody, right? And so that influences the reader by allowing us really to look at all of these characters in a very unique setting. And the setting, the vastness of space, you can think about that. Just this is the infinite universe. This is where people will eventually go in the future to colonize. Having this technology explode, um, like kind of creates a situation where our characters are now, just kind of floating to their death. Why does it take place in that time? Well, again, the future makes us reflect on the present. Why does it take place in that place? So in this case, you can think about the beauty and depth and meaning of metaphorical of space. How does the setting contribute to the story? Well, we have nothing else except for these people floating through the vastness of space. And the influence on the reader, of course, is really allows us to focus, as I mentioned before, on the characters, okay, and on the use of dialogue. I think it's pretty clear, okay, that the theme of this story is a reflection on our lives. Do you want to end up in a place where you're like, well, I wish I could have done that, and I should have done this, or should have done more of that? Now, you're young, but there's no harm from time to time to remember that we're mortal and to remember to reflect on our lives and to try to have a more meaningful existence sooner rather than later because, well, who knows what's going to be happening tomorrow. Now, the plot is not particularly exciting. There's no action, really. The plot is it's almost Socratic, if you want to get technical. The use of dialogue here is a lot of character building, a lot of character reflection, a lot of depth into who these people are inside their personalities at this moment in time as they face the end, really. And the setting helps the theme because if our theme is really to focus on these characters and on the reflection in their life, well, doing this in the middle of nondescript space, the infinite beauty and just the infinite nature of space, the infinite nature of life and existence, and the time old question, all the way back again, if you want, to Socrates or to the original philosophers that we know or don't know of. This is always pretty much really the basis of, what is a good life and what kind of lives should we lead? And that's not only philosophy, well, that's religion, etc. Now, dialogue is extremely significant here. Okay, so there's nuance at the ending of the story, a dot dot dot. Well, not as much as normal, but we know the characters are going to be gone. But Bradbury made his point, finished. Again, the use of adjectives in this not particularly strong in this example over here, but still, it's in use. The dialogue, as I mentioned, is incredibly important here, and the dialogue builds the theme because these are our characters speaking. Really, if you think about it, the setting provides an opportunity, the context provides an opportunity for our characters to speak to each other much more honestly than they ever would have. They're isolated, they're facing the end. There's nothing else that can go wrong. It's over, So now the characters are in a position where they can really say what they think, and they do, okay, to each other. And that level of honesty influences the reader because it allows us to connect in some ways with the characters and their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations, and that builds the theme again. Well, you know, let's think a little more about life. Now, Bradbury is painting an image in our mind, and here it's not so much images that he's painting, but ideas. Okay, so he uses the dialogue, characterization, if you will, to bring us to these different people, these different positions. Now, none of it particularly matters, okay? Taking us through the story into the end. That even though the captain dies, we we're left with a sense of hope. And so there's a young boy. There's no reason why the young boy is significant in that he's just a little boy beginning his life, and one day he will be a man like that meteor that he thought that he saw and made a wish on. So yeah, that's quite nice. This part of the extract over here, quite um, quite obviously, um, the uh, the theme. Okay, so this is pretty much the theme. Okay, and the repetition. You get the word falling, 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 alone. Um, Okay, again, this Bradbury's bringing us into the mind of his characters. Okay, the empty life, these kind of things over here, the meanness that he had. You know, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I could have forgotten, but um, Hollis is our captain, right? So somebody important, you know, into the star deep and vibrating. We talk about even the word or the title, Kaleidoscope, just that melange, that mix of colors in space, which is what a kaleidoscope is, really. You know, you can think about that. I think there's quite a bit to think about when it comes to the title of this story. I wanted to say something else. So burn, okay, just there. Ah, here. All right, so we have another one of these poetic devices. Okay, so there's one, there's another one, here's another one, another one, another one, another one. You know, the shards of the kaleidoscope. Um, Specific, right? So the reader is imagining them because you could take this pretty much this whole part over here and just say the crew members were floating into space, period. But that's obviously not very effective. Bradbury has a technique to have us look at all of these people and we can really see them and much more engaging. And of course, then our ending over here, okay? And a falling star, a blazing white star, the dusk, you know, just at the end of the day, beginning of the night. Make a wish, said his mother, make a wish, and then the end, okay? And of course, this is not a star. This is a human being and our small boy. You know, don't know who he is. He has no name, and his mom is there too. She doesn't have a name either, but he's kind of at the beginning of something new. Now, that's about 13 minutes or so, but that's kind of what it is that I was looking for. I could spend a lot more time going through this story and talking about Kaleidoscope and what we could think or interpret as the title, etc. Um, so look through that. If you have any questions about your listening number two, then you can ask me. I don't expect you to always have the exact same answers that I've had. In fact, I encourage you to have your own. And many times in reading them, think, okay, I would have thought this, but you thought that. For example, about the climax, right? So I have several different answers that are, you know, just as good. One is the other, as long as you've understood what a climax is and its purpose to the story. All right. So I hope that that's been clear and helpful, and wish you all well.